The first step to making this little paneled skirt for a toddler is to make a pattern piece. I'm going to be creating a ruffle around the bottom, but I did not create a pattern piece for that because I just kind of did that freehand. But for this one, for a toddler size, it's going to be kind of a little short skirt. But when you think about it with a toddler, they're so small that this size will probably, and I don't have a model like right in front of me to try on my finished design, but it will probably be about to the knees once the ruffle's on there. So what I did was I cut a piece that is 6 inches wide across here and 12 inches long here. If you want a long skirt, you would want to measure your model and take that into account for this piece that you're cutting for the pattern. I just kind of wanted about a knee length skirt, so this is what I'm using. And if you're going to use 3 coordinating panels of fabric or 3 different fabrics, you want to cut 2 each of each piece of fabric. If you're only using 2, what I did was I marked a fold line here, and you could cut 2 of each on the fold, and you would get pretty much the same size skirt from that. So I'm using 3 pieces, and what I have here is my little chevron owl fabric, which I think is just awesome. I love this fabric. Any excuse to make something with it. I've got 2 of this piece, 2 of this piece, and 2 of this piece. And I have cut 2 pieces for which this will be the ruffled bottom. And I cut these pieces 30 inches on the fold. That's when they're folded, they're 15 inches, and when they're unfolded, they're 30 inches each. And that's 2 of those, and they're about 4 inches wide. So the first thing that we want to do to sew our panel pieces together, and I want this piece, the owl, to be the center piece, and then I'm going to have, let's turn this over so you can see, I'm going to have one of this one and this one on either side, and that's the way I want to do my pattern. What I'm going to do is sew each piece the exact same way for both sides. Like, I'm going to have this in the middle, this on this side, and this on this side, because when you turn them, they'll be opposites. These 2 will. And that's what I want. I want those 2 pieces to be opposite each other from the front and the back of the skirt. So for my stitch length, I have my machine set on 2.5, medium speed. First thing I'm going to do is take this piece and this piece with right sides facing together. I'm going to line them up, and I'm using the side of my presser foot as a guide to where I want my seam allowance to be. So it's just a little tiny bit over the edge here, and that's what I want. That way I know that all of them come out uniform if I follow that. I'm going to do a quick back stitch, not a great big one. I just like to do that, even though there's going to be other parts sewn onto this, and a back stitch might not be necessary, but I always find that it starts to come loose a little bit, and then it interferes with my work if I don't. So I like to always back stitch everything. That I have this panel piece sewn on, I'm going to open it up, and this with the owls on it's going to be in the middle for me. So now I'm going to take the chevron piece with the right sides facing together and do the same thing that I did with the first panels. Okay, so there I have one panel of the skirt, front or back, whichever one you want it to be. I'm going to sew it the exact same way with the other pieces. With the owl in the middle, my chevron's going to be to my right, and the flowers are going to be to my left. So you can see that I have my 2 panels for the back and the front of the skirt sewn together. Now the next thing I want to do is, and I wanted to say, because the reason I was saying, if you have a pattern that doesn't matter which side is up and which side is down, you can pretty much not worry about where you place these, because you can turn it either way. But this one, since, you know, I don't want my owls and birds to be upside down on one side, I have to make sure that I had everything lined up so that when I put it together, it comes together right. So anyway, I just wanted to add that. So the next thing I'm going to do is fold out these seams in the back, and I'm going to press them down because I don't want them to be bulky and in the way. At this point, you could turn it over and go to the machine and put a decorative quilting stitch on that, or whatever you call that, just to top it off, but I'm not going to do that with mine. I don't want to. I don't feel like it needs it, so I like to go over and iron over the top as well because I want to make sure that that seam is nice and neat before I do this next step. Now what we're going to do is put right sides facing together, as you can see, because I've got my owl pattern up in the direction it should be, and I've sewn everything the exact same way. On the outside, when I turn them over with the right sides facing together, I get opposites on these ends, which is what I wanted. So I'm not gonna do this on camera. I'm just gonna sew down the sides, and then I'll be back to show you how to prepare the ruffle. So you can see I've got my sides sewn together, the back and the front of the skirt, and I'm gonna lay this piece aside because I don't need it right now. I'm gonna go and get the ruffle ready. First thing I want to do to get this ruffle ready before I do any connecting it and ruffling it up and all that is I want to make a seam for the bottom. So I've got the hem for the ruffle, and I'm going to set my machine on medium speed on 3.5 stitch length because it is just a hem. So I don't want a really tight stitch there, and I don't want one that's actually too loose either. So I'm going to hem these up, and then I'm going to put them right sides facing together with the hem at the same place. And I wanted to show you this because I'm trying to cut some corners here. I don't want to do a lot of sewing on camera. And I'm going to connect this end and this end after I've done this, sewed this hem down. And then I'm going to create the ruffle using my machine. You can use the machine method if you have a ruffler gather foot. I think it's a gathering foot. Or you can do it, with the hand stitch. You stitch it in there and then you pull it. I actually find for me that it's easier to use the machine. I could spend hours trying to get that ruffle even when I hand stitch it. So for me, it's actually creating an easier step when I use the gathering foot on the machine. So I'm going to do all of that off camera, and then I'm going to show you how to attach it and how to finish up the skirt. So I've got my ruffle sewn, and I'm not 100% sure that it's going to fit the way it lined up, but it's good enough for me to get started. I'm going to make it work. I've already started with the bottom of the skirt, and I've got right sides facing together and the ruffle facing up, like it's upside down. And I'm going to line up the ends. You see the sides of the skirt. This is the side of the ruffle with the side of the skirt. And then that way I can work from that. So I'm finding my ends. And this is a good way to do it, whether you do a machine ruffle or a hand ruffle. And then that way you can kind of fit it. So what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time doing this on camera. I think mine lined up pretty good. But what I'm going to do is that now that I've got the sides pinned together, I'm going to go all around and pin and make this fit the bottom of this skirt. And I wanted to show you so that I make this clear before I sew this. You can see I've got my ruffle pinned, and I got very lucky because it fit perfectly to the skirt the way I had it gathered. So I just pinned it in various places, and what I'm going to do is go over to the machine and try to go over the line where I sewed to make the ruffle. And I'm going to start on the side and go all the way around and do that, and then I'll come in and show you the next step. You can see I've got my ruffle sewn on here, and I've pulled all the pins out. Now what I want to do is I'm going to turn this ruffle down, and I want to make sure that this seam for the ruffle, the seam allowance, is facing up, just because I think that's going to work out to be neater for what I'm going to do here. What I'm doing is I'm going to flatten this out and push that seam facing up. I'm going to press it down. And you can see some of my stitch line from the ruffle is kind of showing, but you could easily hide that with a piece of lace, you know, instead of having to go in and pull out all the stitches from that where you made that ruffle. At this point, if you don't have the problem with the stitch showing through, you can just go ahead and do a top stitch here. What I'm going to do is grab some decorative trim that I have, and I'm going to cover it because I'm not going in and pulling all of these stitches out. That's where it gets a little tricky when you machine gather it, because that's going to show through. I actually think I might just go ahead and go in and pull those stitches out. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that so that we can get some steps done with this. So this is our skirt. Now what we need is elastic for the waistband. So what I have here for my skirt is a piece of elastic that's 23 inches, and I'm expecting it to come down to about 22 when I attach it. 22 is about average waist size for my granddaughters. It could vary depending on the child, so you really need to measure your model for this. I can't give you a specific size, and then you know, I don't want anybody coming back to me and saying, well, I did that size and it didn't work out, because every kid is different, every person is different. So if you're making this specifically for somebody, you're going to need to measure their waist. But anyway, what I'm going to do is turn the skirt wrong side out, and I'm going to fold over where I want the back of the skirt to begin, because at this point, if you wanted to, you could put a little tag or a little marker in there so that you know the back from the front. If it doesn't matter which way the kid you're making it for wears it, then it doesn't really matter. You can, either side can be back or front. So I don't press or anything, because what I found is when I try to press this line down to make the casing for the elastic, it always is a little off. I seem to do better with eyeballing things than with certain things than with going in and making precise measurements and pressing and doing this and that. So I'm going to go all around, and I'm going to leave a small opening so that I can feed the elastic through. I'm going to feed the elastic through, and then I'm going to close it about an inch total, so a half an inch, this piece and this piece laying on top of each other, and I'm just going to stitch that together once I've got it encased into the skirt. You can do it the sew and stretch method. I don't like that because it doesn't always come out perfect. So I'm going to fold this over, sew it, leave a small opening, feed the elastic through, close it up, and come back and show you the finished results. Right, so there you have it. Look at that. That is a really cute little skirt. Like I said, I'm going to go back in, and I'm just going to pull these seams out from where I gathered it, and then I'm going to put a top stitch just so that this hem right here kind of lays down. You don't really have to do that step. You could probably just press it and it might stay in place pretty good, but I like the idea of putting a top stitch on there because it makes it look so much neater. So that's it. You see, we've got the front, back, however you want to have your little person that you're making it for wear it. And you could make a matching headband, a matching hair bow, and maybe even a little vest or something. Or you could like vamp up a t-shirt with little accents of these fabrics on the sleeves. So really cute, really easy idea. And I meant to say at the beginning of the video that you can do this with fat quarters. It is, except for the ruffle, I think, you can do this skirt project with fat quarters, and it would be plenty. I hope y'all enjoyed this easy little sewing tutorial. I'll be back with more pretty soon. I'm trying to get into the habit of it, you guys, but things were kind of hectic over the holidays. We all had the flu for Christmas. Yay, thank you, Santa Claus. So anyway, that's it. Peace, y'all. Bye-bye.